First off, I want to thank Nicole being a little bit of a newbie. Remember, I did say that I was an artist, an avant-garde artist at that. I posted and made my own board instead of going to the message area. At any rate, after looking at that response and thinking a little bit more about it, what it actually calls for with this trash heap is what I would call an SRT, which is a social responsibility team. This is currently what I'm doing in the art field. I use a lot of Google Plus, documents and so on in my work to transfer. I have a technology workflow transfer to getting my art to different places. So what this is called for, and I'll use an example of a DirecTV company that I worked for that was responsible for putting the foreign language channels up onto the DirecTV satellite. We had one of the top Russian engineers in the country from out of Russia who was in the lab working on all of the inventions to allow DirecTV to be wired to all of the different apartments in an apartment building setting, which was unheard of. And to try to make the long story short, what my job as a project manager of a outward-facing sales team is to take this concept and idea out into the public in the buildings that were secured that we had and get that into there. Now, this is what I would find is I would go back into the lab to ask the engineer, who incidentally was the first man that I knew in this country in 1996 to hold a doctorate of electrical engineering from Russia before the United States granted it. And I would ask, well, this is what we kind of need to be able to do what we need to do on what the people want. For which the engineer would then reply, well, this is what I'm doing in testing in the lab because this is the way that you will get it. So that's what I'm talking about in terms of a social responsibility team that can be coupled with social media, because after all, I'm the one that's getting the idea across and out to the people and interfacing with the IT or the engineering. So this is what needs to be opened up into Google with some of these ideas that they have, is put in place a social responsibility team. Let's take into place the idea of YouTube. Now, of course, being an artist and a musician, I have plenty of YouTube videos up there, musician friend buddies of mine that are some of the top musicians in the world and so on. So I created a Google document where they can sign up and make it a documented area where they're agreeing to participate. So what does Google do? They work with a lot of big content providers and Vivo and MTV and so on, and the engineers are not actually working with it, but the lawyers interface with them. So my video goes up and they say, well, gee, you probably don't have the rights to broadcast your friend Dave Dixon, and it sounds like, for another example, it sounds like when you're using black and white movies that are out of copyright, it sounds like that's owned by someone else. It's preposterous, but Google allows these people to come in, do whatever it is that they want in terms of the sake of money, because they're interfacing with the legal section. Once again, that's where it calls for the social responsibility team to interface with the engineers and the outward bound people. Otherwise, you end up with a huge trash heap. Thank you.